Cracking mi gente, this your boy D once again, coming by ready to show some love and give you guys a little bit of knowledge. Before we get into this topic, which today will be the first part of my life story, I just want to come in here and tell you guys I apologize for not posting contents. It's been the holidays, plus I know a lot of people been busy as well, so I didn't want to take time away from you guys to spend it with you guys' family. So I chose to kick on back, let you guys enjoy your holiday. And afterward, make this video that's gonna be coming up in parts. I had told you guys, I promised you guys that I was gonna make this video, and it's gonna be on parts. So please bear with me. This first part is gonna basically, as you can see on the thumbnail, creating basically just a little bit of background so you guys can know who I am, and then go from there. So with that said, man, don't forget to subscribe, hit that like button, leave a comment. I'll make sure I get back at you guys whenever I can. The first chance I can, I always get back at you guys. You guys already know what's cracking, man. With that said, let's get into some topic. For some of you guys didn't know, I was born in a small country called El Salvador. There's basically in Central America. It's the smallest out of all of them. I was born to two parents, a mother and a father, who raised me until I was about 6 or 7. Afterwards, my dad left to come to the United States to give us on his mind a better life. I'm the third of 4 boys. There's 4 of us, and my mother raised us the best she could with whatever little we had. She made the best out of it. She was a great woman. She's always had taught us to be hardworking. She's a hardworking woman. She raised 4 boys on her own. My 2 older brothers got sent to where I was literally born in the states called close to San Vicente and San Miguel. So it's like in between them. It's called Canton de San Ildefonso. I was born over there, but we later then moved to the city, San Salvador, and bought a house over there. And that's when my first experience, my first contact with gangs really came about. When we moved to this city, we moved to an area called Las Cimas de San Bartolo. That's in by Soyapango. People that are familiar with Salvador, that's like the city of the city. So, excuse me, I was basically, Soyapango is the city, like the center, like downtown. Ilopango, where I was living, that's where the Cimas de San Bartolo are located. So I know people that know Salvador are gonna bring the hell down on me if I get this wrong. When we moved there, actually, they were barely building those houses. The whole community was barely getting built on. Now, we were the first few people that moved into that community. Like, I believe we were the first 10 or 15 people that bought houses there. They haven't even finished building the other house that was down the hill. They used to call Alta Vista or High View in English. And it was really nice, man. We got to there to see the constructions of all the houses they got made afterwards, the building of the dump sites for like the toilet waters and all this stuff they get over there. They built it like in the little hole they have there. It was like a hill, and then actually those 2 cities or little, I must say cities. Those 2 little cities were divided by just a little hill. So if you go up the hill, you were on territory. Then later on became 18th Street territory. If you go down the hill, literally it was the Madero MS-13 territory. So the only thing that separated them was that little hill. And before, when we first fought the house, they weren't gangs like that. I mean, you could see them here and there, like really deep in the city. So Soyapango, La Tiendona. There was this little areas where you could see them, but actually right where we were at, they didn't came until a little bit later. We talking about 99, 98 when we first moved to those areas. So unfortunately, I was up there in El Salvador for when the earthquakes actually hit El Salvador, were really devastating. The 2001 earthquakes in 2000. And we didn't get it as bad as Las Colinas, which was a city that got literally buried on the ground, because the way the city was built, like I said, they were built like in a little pothole, and they were under, and then on top of it, everything surrounding this area was nothing but sand. So actually, people, when the earthquake hit, all that sand that was on top of them literally buried every single house that was there. There was a lot of people that died there. If you looked it up, the earthquakes of Salvador, Las Colimas were one of the areas that got really devastated. So when we moved there, like I said, it was a nice city. We weren't rich, but we didn't poor either. We were like in the mid classes. We had enough where we didn't go hungry sometimes. My mother made sure of that. She used to work in the maquilas. My dad as well. But at that point, that's when we start witnessing a lot of domestic violence abuse going on into the house. I won't go into great details on what transpired or not. Just know that I witnessed a lot of domestic violence in my house. When my dad used to get drunk, come to the house, we never knew what kind of movie we were gonna get him. So it was hard to try to maneuver around him when he was drunk. And I started to resent him by him seeing him putting hands on my mother, beating her up. And she did the best she could to shy us away from it, hide the fact that he was abusive husband. She was a woman that only was old school. That's the best way I can describe it. She was old school, so her devotion was to her and the kid, to him and the kids, and there was never a friction of infidelity, or at least on her part, even though he had plenty of women that worked with him and everything else. But his anger was every time that she would take us out to the downtown or to little carriages areas or just to walks and stuff like that. He will automatically start thinking that she was gonna go and see somebody else. So that's where the fights will always come from. I think that his guilt didn't allow him to see her in another way than what he was doing wrong. He thought in his mind that she was doing the same, which was never true. I witnessed a lot of domestic violence. It got to the point where one time he almost went to jail because people got involved. People called the police, and then us as kids, we didn't want to see our dad go to jail either, but we didn't want to see our mom go through the whole process of dealing with the correct system that Salvador had at that time. So we just basically they let him go. He changed a little bit after that, and probably like I want to say 2 months after that, he took off to the United States. So he came over here. He's living here in the United States. There's no point of saying where because that just don't make no sense. But he's here in the United States, and out of respect, out of his privacy, I will. He's living here in the United States. He's now married. He doesn't have, well, he does have other kids outside us, but not that he claimed, basically. Like he haven't given them the last name, but we know that he has a daughter over there, and I think he has one here. But I never had asked him about that, how true that is. But it just, I barely. Me and him didn't have a great relationship. Let's just put it that way. Me and him didn't have the greatest relationship at all because I was the most resentful towards him. And plus, I think me choosing the life later on to become a gang member had a lot to do with how I saw him and what I was looking for in life that I didn't have at that time. But I never spoke with him like that. And the times we did used to speak when I was in the streets, it was just fighting. We used to curse each other out really bad. I used to be really disrespectful towards that man. I never once called him dad until I came home. But even then, it sounded weird calling him dad. So we never had a relationship like he had with my other brothers. With me it was a little bit different because I am to blame as well. I wouldn't just blame it all on him. I was a rude son. I was a kid that didn't give a damn about what he thought or anything else. And plus, I kind of resented, and that resentment was always there because a father is supposed to raise the child, teach him what a father is supposed to teach the boys, and be there for them. And I felt that he failed us at that. He failed at least me. He failed me to give me the lessons that I needed to see life the way life was. He didn't prepare us for nothing. A mother can only do so much, but you guys gotta understand that a mother cannot raise a man. She cannot teach a boy to be a man. That's just facts. She can do the best she can. She will raise us with nice morals, nice standards, nice values. And she always put in our head that we shouldn't abuse our women, whether it's verbally or physically abused. So we try to always follow those steps and what she indulged in us. But it was she couldn't raise a man, and a man in a boy life you always need a man to guide him through the disciplinary whatever. Don't get me wrong, my mom was a strict. She was a disciplinary to through and through. That lady did not play. She's 4'11", but when she get mad, you can think she's like 6'3", man. She does not play. La chancla voladora used to be famous with her. But my mother, because of everything she had witnessed, you gotta remember my mother was born around the time when the guerrilla was going on, when the whole civil war broke off in El Salvador. So basically, she saw that violence. In her family, there weren't people that we were told basically in our family not to show weakness. At the same time, we were also told not to let our emotions be displayed. And I can't blame her for that. I think it's just that the way she got raised, when she saw all these people, when her uncles dying, literally killed by the government in front of them. And I think that affected her as well. So I don't blame her. But my mother was not a type of woman that she would come and hug us and say, Mijo, I love you guys. Mijo, I miss you guys. She was never that type of woman. She was just never. We never grew in an environment where our father or our mother would come and say, Mijo, I love you guys. I miss you guys. I want you guys to do good. I want you. No, I think her way of expressing herself was being disciplined, teaching us how to be honest and be men, but as well, I don't know if that was her way of shielding us from the world or her preparing us for the world, that people won't care about what your feelings are. They will destroy and they will step on it. And in some way, I appreciate her teaching me to be kind of like a shield and not show emotion, because to me, even though in the long run it affected in a lot of many ways, because I never been the type of guy that I can go to up to a woman and be like, I'm sorry if I was wrong. That was never me, man. That was never me. I don't know if it was because or the way I was raised, but that influences a lot, because I never used to get up for my day on my birthday and my mom used to come in there singing us happy birthday. We didn't have that. To us, a birthday was just another date on the calendar. Let's get it on. If you were lucky, you get a gift. If not, well, you shit out of luck. And that had a lot to do with how later on I became type of a shell. And the way why I say about a shell of a man is that I hid a lot of my feelings. I dealt with a lot of emotions that I was supposed to deal with. And the way that I would let it out was I would act out. I would become really aggressive. If I didn't like something that somebody disagreed with me, I would sit there and instigating until I would get a reaction out of you that would create my own reaction for me to play you out. So it affected in a lot of ways. And she raised us all the same, 4 boys. Like I said, she raised 4 boys on her own. And I commend her. I give her props. I love her to death to this day. My father was up here in the United States trying to make us a better living, I guess, for El Salvador. But I found that selfish of his part, and I blame him for it a long time. Like I said, I resent him for a long time. But I went through so much stuff when I was a kid that I think that shaped me to the man I later became, the which now I don't like. But I mean, it's just the pure facts. Like I said, I was the third boy out of the 4 of us, and I think I was the more rebellious. I think that's the way to describe myself. I was the more rebellious out of all of them. Um, I seeked a lot of attention because the oldest always get the first love. That's the mother's first love. And the last one is just that's the baby. So us getting stuck in the middle, my brother and I think I got the shirt under the stick, because my older brother, he was cool. He was laid back. He didn't count. But at the same time, like I said, I was the rebellious ones. I didn't like to listen. I didn't like to follow rules. I was kind of an ass. There's no other way to put it. I was kind of an ass. My first encounter with gangs became when we moved to San Salvador, Ilopango. Like I said, the Cima de San Bartolo was an area controlled by 18th Street when the start came around. And even though sometimes we don't want to, we find friendships in the places that we sometimes look for. Kids like our age, kids that do the same activity as us, people that live around us, people that you could talk to. And I found those friendships with those guys. They were pretty cool. We used to play soccer all the time, and they were either the cousins of the sons of the brothers of somebody that used to be in the gang. And when I used to go to their house, which was rare, that would allow me to go outside my house, I would see how their homeboys would treat their brothers and stuff like that. So it was intriguing to me to see how can somebody gain so much respect, or how can somebody be looked up that way. And it started developing questions. I started developing questions. How can, and it also I also start getting put in my head, like, how can I be that way? How can I get to the place where people look at me and they see me as a respectful guy, stand up guy, but also as well as that dude's with the business. You know what I mean? So, like I said, we used to go to school in Alta Vista. It was a Christian school, and everybody from that area were affiliated with MS-13 gang members. And everywhere I lived, they were affiliated with the 18th Street gang members. It didn't matter where you were from. Actually, it didn't matter where you live, because I experienced that one time. We were doing a tournament for soccer, and I saw this bunch of kids, and like probably 14, 15 years old, older than us, of course, um, hanging around, dressing like a cholo, having the girls, and that's something that always attracts the girls. They have the beautiful girls, and they're doing this, they're doing that, they're reveling thing. They're not, nobody's telling them. They have beers, they have cigarettes, which was intriguing to a kid that haven't been around stuff like that. I never saw a 14, 15-year-old drinking, sipping beers with a woman on their hand, grabbing, whatever they want to grab, getting a fill on, whatever. But then I started realizing it wasn't just about that, because one time one of my friends, Marvin, we used to play soccer together, his brother was actually in the gang. He was from 18, but he wasn't. And we were going to school on our way back to school. Right before we get up to the hill, about 7 guys pulled up out of the alley and were like, "Hey, are you so-and-so's brother?" And I'm walking with him because we live like 2 houses from each other. So I looked at my little brother and I told him, "We'll keep on pushing." But I stood with Marvin. Not that I was brave or I was gangster. No, I was just stupid. There's no other way to put it. But at the same time, I believe that if something was gonna happen to my friend, somebody I play with, somebody I've been to the house with, somebody mother who fed me, I wasn't gonna let him get done dirty on my mind. That's what I was thinking. And mind you, we were like 7, 8 years old kids facing 16, 15, 17-year-old kids. So we know it wasn't gonna be a fair thing, but 2 of us against 7 of them, it was just never fair. They beat our asses. I mean, they started jumping us because Marvin would keep his mouth shut. Plus, he was defending his brother, because they started calling his brother a type of name. Then they started insulting his mother, his sister. So he did what I think any kid in that predicament would do: start defending me through the first punch. We got a few off before we were overpowered, and we got jumped. We got beat up really bad. And I grew an anger towards actually the homies from MS. I was really mad, and it will trip you guys out. I was really pissed off that these dudes actually went out their way to beat us up, because these kids that I hang out with was somebody's brother that was a gang member. So when we got home, I had tears running down my face, and there wasn't no scaredness. Of course, I was scared, but I was more angry at the predicament that I found myself in, because it was like, how can people do this without having even an amount of decency to even jump these 2 kids because one of their brother was a gang member? It was mind blowing to me at that time. I didn't understand it. I just keep hearing a mess, F this, and just derogatory words towards 18. And you might ask, how then you became MS-13 gang member later on the road? And I will tell you guys. So I went home, and this will surprise you guys. I got whooped at my house. The moment I walked in, with my shirt ripped, bloody, crying, because I was a kid, I was crying. My mother said, "What happened to you?" I said, "I got jumped by this kid." She said, "Why you doing hanging out with gang members anyways?" I said, "It was Marvin. He's not a gang member." He said, "Well, his brother is, so he's guilty by association." So I looked at her, I said, "What do you mean he's guilty? So you telling me if my brother made a decision and I have to sit here and live by it, I'm guilty as well?" She said, "Well, they're not your brother, so you go sit your ass down." And the answer back to her, which is something that a lot of people that are Latinos or a lot of people that got raised in a Latino household know you should never do. You don't answer back to whether it's your mother or your grandma. She buzzed my head. Man, she buzzed me outside the head. Then she punched me. And see, this was the thing about my mother. Before she became a Christian woman, her way of punishing us was really vicious. She would lose control of how she would do things or how would she act. I don't know if it was because of everything that she went through when she was a kid herself, witnessing all these killings and all this stuff when they almost got raped by the soldados because they were bringing tortillas to the guerrilleros, or because it just they had went through an ordeal. And I cannot explain details because I respect her privacy and I don't want to insult my mother as well. But she had been through a big ordeal, getting evicted from their own house, the house getting torched, one of our uncles getting killed, literally decapitated by the soldiers of El Salvador because they believe he was a guerrillero, he was a guerrilla member. And my mother couldn't even to a school. You have a woman that can't even read or write. In order for you to understand my mother's writing or something, it's hard to understand that because she doesn't know how to read or write. I'm not making an excuse for her behavior back then because I was a child, but a lot of the things she did to us, they were out of an anger place. They came out of an anger. They didn't come out of her trying to teach us a lesson. They came out of anger. I don't blame her for it, but that scarred me as well because I took it as like if my mother doesn't care and beat me up because she thinks I'm doing something wrong by standing up next to my friend when he's in a desperate need, then what is that I'm doing wrong? And like I said, my mother was the type of person that when she would discipline us, she wouldn't measure the type of way she would discipline. She would just, whatever she had on her hand at that moment, and if you made her mad and we had something coming, that's what you were gonna get hit with. And this happened and it's common in a lot of Latinos families. A lot of Latinos families, they have been through some type of ordeal or have been some type of drama or trauma. They tend to take out the anger out on their kids, and that's where sometimes we go wrong as parents. My mother tried to give us everything that she could, and I cannot take that away from her. She was a single mother in El Salvador in the 90s trying to make a living for 4 boys. But her way of disciplining us was really wrong. Now that I'm a little bit older, I understand because I have nephews and nieces. And before I even put my hands on them, which I had got permission by their parents to do so, I try to talk with them and figure out where is it that they're going wrong before I put my hands on somebody. But due to all of this transpiring to me when I was such an early kid, I thought that violence was the answer for everything. I drilled it to my head. If I did something wrong, my mama would beat my ass. If she didn't do it, then my uncle, who later became a gang member, would beat my ass. If they didn't do it, then my brothers will beat my ass. So it became a pattern to me, and I made it okay for it to become a pattern. I basically got to the point where violence was the answer to everything. Violence was the okay for us to do that. And that's why I say we go wrong as parents because, yes, we got to discipline our kids. I'm not saying that we shouldn't. But violence is not always the answer to everything because we don't know how it's going to scar the kids. It scarred me in a way that you guys don't have an idea or imagination how bad it was for me to actually come home and have a conversation with somebody on the real depth of feelings or towards some type of sensitive needs or some type of sensitivities for the other person. It's been a struggle, and I still struggle to this day, because whether I'm wrong or not, and 9 times a day I might be wrong, it's hard for me to come out and say, you know what, I apologize, my bad. But when I was in prison, I noticed that it became okay if I stepped somebody's shoes or I bump into somebody and say, dispense, I apologize, my bad. And most of our conversations that are convicts, we started with, hey, excuse me, homie, dispenser for the interruption. I apologize for the interruption, but I'll kind of get a minute of your time. But when it comes to our own family and our own loved ones, we don't have what it takes to apologize, because we've been traumatically affected by either what transpired in our life before we became gang members and what continued to transpire when we went to the system. And it's not okay for us to put our kids through it. We have to break the cycle somewhere. And that's why the reason I'm doing this video in the background is for you guys to understand, I'm not making it okay that my decisions that I made as a gang member hurt other people or affected other people. I'm not trying to glorify or make it okay that my decisions hurt somebody. I'm not, but I'm giving you guys a point of view, or at least a glimpse of what my life was before I became this gang member. So you guys got understood that sometimes what happened in the past or the trauma we put our kids through, I also affect them on a real serious way. Because if you discipline your kid and you beating them ass every day, one thing is one, and I understand this: if he breaks a glass and you punish him and you beat the glass out of him and you trying to make him understand that was wrong, and he does it again and you beat him up again and he does it again, understand that at that point he's used to you putting hands on him. He might cry, it might hurt him because it will hurt. But in his mind, he normalized that behavior already. On his mind, he feel like he deserved it because he broke that glass and he made it wrong. And the first thing you do was slap them or beat him up or throw a chancla or shoot whatever you had at your hands. And that's where we're going wrong as parents. We're not taking the time to say, you know what, you are getting punished or you getting deemed on a timeout because you broke the glass, and you got to understand the value that this have for me. Probably because it cost money, or probably because it was sentimental value to us. But just smacking them upside the head over and over, you normalizing that behavior, and that kid is going to start believing that he deserves to be punished that way. He's going to look for that punish everywhere he goes. He's either going to inflict it on other people because he thinks he's doing the okay, or he's going to receive and think it's okay, which is not okay. Violence should never be okay. So my mother was that way. She was a real disciplinary. It got to one point where I don't remember correctly if it was a picture frame that she had or it was a drawing that one of my uncles in prison had done for her. But me and my little brother were playing soccer inside the house. She had told them multiple times not to be careful with the ball, not to hit it like we were outside, because there were glass windows there. We understood that. We comprehend that point that if we broke the glass, we will definitely got something coming. We comprehended that fact. We grasped that fact. But you guys should also understand that when kids are playing, things don't always click to them. Things don't always go, oh, if I break, I gotta be careful. Especially if you're having fun and you haven't had fun enough, you haven't laughed, you haven't enjoyed. At that moment that you become and start enjoying that situation, you're gonna forget about if you break the glass, your mom is gonna whoop your ass or your dad is gonna beat you up or whatever the consequence of you doing something will happen. And that moment, when you're in that moment enjoying what you're doing, everything is out the window. You're in that moment, you're enjoying it. Just like if you open up a new present, or you're in the moment when you're enjoying when you see your child born. It's a memory that you haven't because you are sharing it with somebody that you care. So me and my brother are playing soccer inside of it, and he threw me the ball a little bit harder than he intended to it. So I stopped it with my hands when we were playing soccer, penalty basically, goalie, and then so I went, when he kicked out, it was my turn to kick. And right above his head was a glass window. In El Salvador, we had a window with glasses that would go long like that. Long. Everybody, if anybody that knows what I'm talking about. I kicked the ball so hard. I don't know why. I don't know if it was the fact that he kicked a little harder and it kind of hurt my hands or whatever. But I kicked it so hard that he put his hands like a fist to reject the ball. Unfortunately for me, the ball hit the table that was there and it broke the window. And by breaking the window, also broke down one of her drawings that one of my uncles had made for her when he was in prison. In El Salvador back then, they used to make you do craft drawings. They put it like in a piece of sheet that would sew it up against four pieces of wood like a frame, and that would draw on it with paint. And since he was no longer alive, she treasured that paint. And when the glass broke and it sliced the paint down the thing, it might have been something else. I don't remember, but I do remember that part. I try to hide the fact that the drawing was damaged. The window, we knew we were gonna get punished for it, so we prepared ourselves for it. But we never expected our mother to react the way she did that day. She got home and I told her instantly. I said, I broke the glass. It was me. It wasn't him. Playing soccer. She smacked me over the head and says, whatever. Either she was tired or whatnot. She left. But I have a memory that I don't know if me sharing it, we get this video flag or not. But I would just tell you guys that I got put in a predicament what I felt. That if I would have been without oxygen for a little bit longer than a couple more seconds, I probably wouldn't be here. Let's just say it that way. The anger that came over her was so intense that I couldn't understand what it was coming from. At a point, I came almost recognize it. And I'm not blaming my mother. I know she made a lot of mistakes in her life when she wasn't Christian and when she was suffering through all the ordeal she was going through. Now she's a different woman, and I'm not excusing that behavior or nothing. And probably I'm not excusing my behavior for breaking things and stuff like that, and I should have known better. But what transpired that day scarred me for a long time. And I almost got to the point where I kind of resented her, but she was really disciplinary. Our mother will get to the point where if we did something wrong, she will beat our asses until there was no coming back. But at the same time, she installed a lot of morals and value towards us because we weren't allowed. She was having a conversation with adults. We weren't allowed to walk through the area where those adults were talking because at the end, that look that if Latinos know, if when your mama give you that look, you get in it. That look will tell you a lot of things. Or that little finger like this, man, even though it's funny and I make joke over the chanclas, all those things, but those things were serious, man. She stole a lot of values we should not talk when we're not being talked to. We shouldn't disrespect our elders. We should answer something that's a lot is missing for this generation. And I'm sorry I bury a little bit from it, but I want you guys to get this sense of the pain and the stuff that happened to me that led me to become the person I later became. And that's a big aspect of it. The violence I endured throughout the years as a child. After me getting jumped by these dudes, I decided that, you know what? I'm not going to ever become the victim. If I notice or I sense that somebody's going to do something to me, I'm gonna react first and then ask questions later. So it became a pattern to me. Like if I notice that you will come with bad intention, I will break your jaw first and then go from there. I will sock you first and then go from there. I will kick you first and then go from there. My uncle was one of the persons that became like a role model to me. He taught me everything that I knew from the right and the wrong. He taught me how to fight. He taught me how to take a punch. My uncle was the type of dude that he would call you and be like, go to the store, get me some cigarettes. And if you didn't bring in the cigarettes that he wanted or the type or the kind that he won, he will make you puff up your chest and just literally smack you like this in the chest. what we call giving you a pechada back then, or just checking your chest. Or he would just grab my hand and kick the shit out of my butt. Just give me a big old kick. And send me back and tell me get it right. That installment and the ideology of violence became normal to me because I thought it was normal. Because I had seen it. When people I was seeing in my little pasajitos, just like a little hallway where the little neighborhood would live. If somebody there agree with somebody, they will fight. If the woman she went and got involved with her sister husband and they got caught messing around, the sister was gonna beat up on her, hit her with the cacerolas, with the pans and all the stuff. It was normal for us to see that. So I started normalizing all the violence. Then I started getting cousins that were from 18. I started getting cousins that were from the mess. So I started realizing that sometimes it wasn't where we were from, it was just the area we were born, and that became a big old factor in our life. Later on down the road, as she started taking her to the church, we started going to church in the area was primarily dominated by MS-13, Las Cabañas de Morazán, which now is a clique called San Luis. But Las Cabañas de Morazán, the people that know about Las Cabañas, they know that those areas are really deadly. Santa Lucia, Cabañas de Morazán, La Colonia, La Línea del Tren, all those areas were normally and predominantly dominated by MS-13. You saw homeboys tattoos with their face blasted, neck blasted, homies with the tentacles blasted. And my grandma, who's now a resident of in peace, developed a friendship with a lot of those kids because she has seen them grow up when she moved to the area before they became gang members. So she fraternized with a lot of them, would give them food, buy them food, give them clothes. When she would come to the United States because she had a visa, she would take clothes that were not used here or that were deemed used. She would take it down there and give it to them. So a lot of those dudes that I later became calling carnales, my homeboys, started seeing who our grandma was, and they would just stop her. He'd be like, "Hey, ¿qué onda, bicho? What's up, boy? What you doing? How you doing? How's your grandma? Hey, tell her we love her. Thank you for the food. Thank you for the comida." And it became that to me later on being intrigued about tattoos. I would see these young kids, 15, 14 years old, smoking weed, having high nights, getting with the girls. So I started getting intrigued by this. I wonder what's it feel like to hang around these guys. I mean, and the way they would treat each other is why I sometimes say that I don't use the word maje, or I don't refer to somebody as maje. Maje is a word that it means stupid. But the reason why I don't use those words and a lot of Salvadoran slang words is not because I think I'm better than somebody, but I didn't see my homeboys that I grew up with, seeing them grow up, looking up to them, using those words towards each other. I didn't see a homeboy growing up like, "Hey, ¿qué onda, hijo de beep? Hey, vos mono, boop." I just didn't. It was like, "¿Qué onda, carnalito? What's up, carnalito? What's up, bro? How you doing, carnal? ¿Cómo está? ¿Cómo está la familia?" It was something always about how you doing, how's your family, has every, and I'm not normalizing the game banging area, I'm not either, but it was a different aspect when I grew up seeing this. It was prohibiting for any gang member to steal on that community you live. If you were get caught stealing or robbing a house, the beating they will put on you afterwards, oh man, there was no joke. It was something that's not there no more. It's something that's been lost. Of course, I'm not saying go back and game bang looking for that. That's not what I'm saying. But the brotherhood and the carnalismo and the unity that a lot of the homeboys show back then that's not shown now, that's what we were missing. And that's what I was looking for, because I didn't get along with my brothers. I didn't have fun with them. My little brother, he was cool to play with, but when we get mad, it would just fight and fight and fight. And my older two brothers, I didn't spend that much time with them because they live like 3 hours away on a bus to see them. And they wouldn't come to the city that often, so it was hard.